to our next presentation, which is from Michael Moskal. He is Director of Operations at OSTHUS. And he will be talking about demystifying data and IT strategy, increasing business value with a data-centric approach. And I will also give you a little bit of background of Michael. So he serves as a project lead and enterprise architect for several digital transformation and integration projects across the pharmaceutical industry. And he's drawing from more than 13 years of information fusion-related experience for the Department of Defense. He has spent the last 3 years applying his knowledge to 8 of the top 20 pharmaceutical companies. So with quite some background on this space, and now we are looking forward to the demystification.
Thank you, Danielle. And thank you all for joining. So, here at OSTHUS, we've been involved with many digital transformation efforts over the years and really began to see a lot of commonality across organizations in their journeys to go digital. My goal today is to take a deeper look at the meaning of data and IT strategy, introduce the concept of data centricity, and end with a few options for you to jumpstart your digital transformation and data and IT strategy initiatives, which you can hopefully adopt within your own organization. So just to jump in here, if you all remember when you registered for SmartLab, you each added some challenges that you or your organization is presently facing. We transformed some of those challenges into a word cloud in order to get a sense of themes across everyone in attendance today. No surprise, but terms like data, automation, digitization, you've got things like paperless as well, ELN, LIMS, those popped out. A lot of those challenges that I consider universal to all of us in attendance is, concepts like digitization, moving from paper batch records to digital systems and workflows. The concept of automated or paperless lab integration for easy viewing, retrieval, and analytics execution. Another hot topic is the migration of on-prem systems to the cloud. Looking at the harmonization of global activities, so just how to get processes to run similarly, particularly across US and Europe. Centralization of data is another one that I see common across pretty much every organization, moving away from data silos into some form of centralized platform. The hot topic these days is still the next generation of data lakes for integration and accessibility. Jens Song gave a great talk yesterday on the myth or reality of digital transformation, spoke a little bit to data lakes and how they've kind of lost their luster to some degree. I still think that they'll be around for quite some time, but how do we harness that and make that useful for the next 10 years? And additionally, looking at data and ontology modeling to support the creation of high-value business assets. So there's just some common themes that I've seen across the projects I've worked on and some of the challenges that you guys are facing that are presently in attendance today. So here at OSTHUS, we believe so heavily in this interpretation of digital transformation for our pharma and life science partners that we position verticals and offerings around data and IT strategy, data governance, and advanced analytics. So for those of you that are unfamiliar, data governance is a set of principles and practices that ensure high quality through the complete life cycle of your data. For data and IT strategies, we're really my bread and butter. It's largely the realization or instantiation of the data governance processes, ensuring the proper technologies and processes are employed in a controlled fashion. And then there's advanced analytics, and that's kind of the end user business side of things, which I find is probably the most exciting, yet least tangible efforts in the digital transformations. And this is largely where we see the newly derived value because of the increased availability of data and high quality data to scientists and decision makers. So now that we kind of know each other, Robin, if you don't mind maybe posting the first question, but what is your company's most important goal when developing a corporate strategy? And you have the choices from improving investment decisions, managing risks, modeling or assessing risk, improving internal and external reporting, and managing cost. And this was a poll I borrowed from 2015, the Economist Intelligence Unit. They conducted a global survey of asset managers to shed light on how they are dealing with the increasing volume of data that they face.
Michael, this hasn't uploaded the way I wanted it to, so give me 5 minutes, carry on with your presentation, and I'll let you know when it's ready.
Not a problem. Maybe just to cheat a little bit, this is the order in which a lot of the attendees in the original poll answered the questions. So they felt that improving investment decisions was the highest of importance, but we'll come back to this in just a minute. So looking at how to visualize some of these digital transformations and looking at this in maybe 4 different dimensions. So to me, there's kind of this foundation where you have your essential business processes, and then you've got these concepts of data governance, data and IT strategy, and advanced analytics serving as that foundation that you build off of. But to me, in order to actually get to the point where you have a digital transformation or can actually execute towards a vision, you need to build up in terms of these 4 different dimensions. So people, process, data, and technology. And without these 4 pillars, if you don't have all of them, your digital transformation or innovation efforts will not be a glowing success story. You know, we've come into projects where in some cases, maybe the technology landscape's not that well defined, or you know, our colleagues don't understand how to navigate that well. So we can do a technology assessment and help shape that. Or maybe the data is so muddled or not well understood that we need to bring in some domain experts. But the point is, you know, when you're going on these digital transformation journeys, you need to focus on these 4 different dimensions: people, process, data, and technology. And at a high level, to summarize, we're all kind of working towards a future conscious, data-centric organization that can manage the increasing data volumes, types, and complexity. Just some example vision statements that I've seen over the years. So looking at to digitalize laboratories across R&D and biologics production to synergize laboratory activities globally and across functions, using the data to enable advanced analytics. Another one, I think Jan may have touched on this yesterday as well, is to double R&D productivity for curing diseases to improve therapies for patients. Lastly, to have a transparent and robust architecture that seamlessly manages data from capture to consumption in a consistent manner to facilitate reuse and maximize the value of data as an asset. So I see these common themes. They've probably been, these vision statements have been around for 10, 15 years now, and they'll be around for another 10, 15 years as I see it. Looks like the poll question, yes, so let's go back to that. So what is your company's most important goal when developing a corporate and IT strategy? So you have the options of improving investment decisions, managing risks, modeling or assessing risk, improving internal or external reporting, or managing costs. And I believe in the original poll, you were able to pick 3. But I'm interested to see just the overall distribution here. We'll give you guys another 10, 15 seconds. And Robin, are we able to see the results live? Perfect. Yes, this is about what I expected. So improving investment decisions, you know, where to invest in terms of R&D, discovery, manufacturing, things of that nature. I'm surprised to see managing risk that low. Maybe we can quantify that a little bit better. But just, you know, if you do have a good change management procedures in place, to me, a lot of those risks do disappear quite a bit. But also improving internal, external reporting, I think is key. So how do you promote successes internal, ensure that we're online or on schedule, and that there's clear alignment between IT and the business. So very interesting there. So just to level set briefly, what do we mean by data strategy versus IT strategy? So data strategy refers to the tools, processes, and rules that define how to manage, analyze, and act upon business data, whereas IT strategy is the comprehensive plan that outlines how technology should be used to meet IT and business goals. Data strategy, largely data-centric. IT strategy, a little bit more technology-focused. The point is you need to keep these separate when you're executing this digital transformation journey, but coordinated. Otherwise, you always kind of look at your data strategy through this IT perspective and remain very, very technology focused. So this is moving from application centric to more of a data centric organization. Maybe to unpack this a little bit further, just some of the benefits that you'll see from the data IT strategy and give some more definition to this. So I'm sure a lot of us are familiar with FAIR, and Hayden in particular will give a talk on this in about 2 hours from now. But speaking to being findable, accessible, interoperable, and reusable, findability refers to data and metadata that's being easy to find by both humans and machines. Accessible, access control and protocols for querying data are explicit for both the humans and machines. Interoperability, data can be interpreted so that they can be automatically combined with other data. And then reusable, just as it sounds, the data and metadata are sufficiently well described, allowing reuse and reproduction. What is maybe sometimes lost when we speak about FAIR is that these principles refer to 3 different types of entities. So the data itself, its metadata, and the infrastructure that houses that, the FAIR data as well. Additionally, you can see increased transparency by bridging the vision and implementation. You'll see, given that you're more data-centric, you'll make more data-driven decisions, and you'll have more data-driven management of product life cycles. So you'll have a better foresight into when it's time to begin replacing or investing heavily into existing or new products. And really, this helps IT to better understand the needs of the business or the end users by linking technology and data requirements to the business needs. I found this article, so I was reading some old articles on IT strategy in preparation for this, and I stumbled across one from the Harvard Business Review back from October 2001, so almost 20 years ago now. It was entitled, "Your Next IT Strategy." I honestly found it to be very humbling. As I read it, there's a lot of the general concepts back then apply now. So just looking back 20 years ago, most of the systems were custom built on-premise. Architectures were very much monolithic and proprietary. And concepts like web services and XML were technologies that were going to save us from these data silos. Nowadays, it's largely similar challenges with new technologies in play. There's certainly been a shift to buying a solution over building in-house. Cloud migration is a huge emphasis in most, if not all, organizations to some degree. And we see a greater emphasis on data over applications. There's also a more coherent strategy for organizing, governing, analyzing, and deploying an organization's information with a clear establishment on roles and responsibilities as well. So if you get a chance, just maybe Google the Harvard Business Review from 2001, look at your next IT strategy, a few interesting case studies between Merrill Lynch and I think GE or maybe General Motors as well, so quite interesting. So we plan on following up on this particular slide with a blog post in the next week or so detailing the relationship between data and IT strategy, data governance, and advanced analytics. And there's still that 4 dimensions of people, process, data, and technology, and they appear in each one of these foundational components within these organizations of data governance, data and IT strategy, and advanced analytics. Not only is there a strong dependency in those 4 dimensions, but the interconnectedness of data and IT strategy, data governance, and advanced analytics requires a significant amount of collaboration across multiple departments. So really just look forward to maybe a blog post. I think that'll be posted on LinkedIn over the next week or so. This is one of my most favorite slides that I'll present today, just speaking to how to move to a data-driven organization. And it can be most simply described as finding the right technology, building data literacy, and disrupting the status quo. And those are effectively the best ways to start. To give a little bit more concrete steps in terms of how to become data-driven, you need to know what it means to be data-driven. And to me, that is simply moving away from technology being on the pedestal and placing data right up front. You also want to embrace new technology, but also ensure that you embrace recognized technologies. You want to find kind of a healthy balance in your product lifecycle. Disrupt your culture, probably the most challenging aspects out of all of this. So one of the largest obstacles on your digital transformation journey, creating the data-driven culture, it's really not technical, it's absolutely cultural. It's simple enough to describe how to inject data into a decision-making process, but it's far harder to make this normal or automatic for employees. As we all mentioned, and everyone's pretty much bought into at this point, make your organization's data as fair. You also want to build data literacy, and you would ask yourself and ask your organization questions like, how many people in your business do you think can interpret straightforward statistical operations? Or How many managers are able to construct a business case based on concrete, accurate, and relevant numbers? Can those managers explain the output of their systems or processes? And how many data scientists can explain the output of the machine learning algorithms? To me, that is data literacy. Can you actually understand the data and how the data is being used? And ultimately, you want data at the heart of your business. You don't want this as a separate part of things as well. So Robin, hopefully we have this poll question ready. Thank you. So what is the biggest strategic challenge for your organization is currently facing? We posted this question on LinkedIn. I'd be interested to get the current participants' feedback on this. So is it navigating the current tech landscape, which has gotten quite complicated over the years? Having a long-term perspective in terms of planning, right now we're focused on this fiscal year's budgets, but we've got a project that we're executing for 5 to 10 years down the road, but we just don't have the sufficient vision for what things are going to be like in 5 to 10 years. Executing plans on schedule. This is a big complaint that I've seen with pretty much everyone that I've worked with over the years. And then translating that goal or vision into action. So I'll give you guys another 10, 15 seconds for that to answer. And Robin, whenever we're ready, we can do the results. Okay, so you can see the results of the LinkedIn poll versus the results of those in participation today. It's kind of inverted to some degree, which I find interesting. So having that longer term perspective, defining roadmaps, having a blueprint. I think most importantly, having that agility is also key. These requirements in the business, these do change over time. So having that long-term perspective is certainly challenging. And then translating those goals into action, having that being the second most results is also quite surprising. Being able to really translate that vision into a concrete action plan. It's very interesting. We've got about 12 minutes left. I've got a bunch of slides here. I'm going to fly through these very quickly, if you don't mind, so that we have enough time for questions. So a very simple question: why should data and IT strategy matter? And I almost answered that with another question: what is the point of a data and IT strategy if it does not fit your overall goals? So organizations create value through services, products, intellectual property, and people. At the center of that is data in your IT organization. Your strategy should have tangible value chain upwards throughout your organization, but ultimately it's a question that you guys need to answer yourselves. Maybe speaking to just at a very, what benefits does an effective data and IT strategy provide for your organization in particular? To me, you want to innovate, you want to increase your agility, the quality of your data and analysis and analytics within your organization. It's kind of this concept of garbage in, garbage out. If you've got this data lake or a data swamp, the data itself is a complete mess. Your analytics downstream are going to be a mess as well. Having that alignment between the business is always key. So those end users and having their feedback and being able to adapt to the needs as well as the external needs of the market is also key. Establishing more innovation and being data-driven, I think is also essential. This allows you to be thought leaders in the space and effectively promote knowledge share across the other groups within the pharma space or life sciences space as well. So what are the short-term and long-term consequences of not having a solid IT strategy? I think the first three that I mentioned here are probably the most painful that you guys see on a more frequent basis. So you see, costly software maintenance, migration, and updates. A lot of projects these days are just constantly revolving around maintaining the current infrastructure or building new solutions. Also, there's also the risk of creating incomplete data, the data silos again. having the data duplication across, and not being able to actually trust your data because of data integrity concerns, and being very short-term focused, not understanding the long-term consequences, which to me, I think kind of ties back to some of the answers that we saw in the poll. Last talk I gave in November, you know, I had a lot of questions on change management. I don't want to go too deep into that. Happy to take some questions on that. But to me, you know, change management really enables the achievement of the return on investment through faster speed of adoption, higher utilization, and greater proficiency. There is absolutely a direct correlation between change management effectiveness and the likelihood of meeting objectives. To me, the value of change management really, and the goal here, is to have a form of controlled agility, allowing you to adapt to dynamic organizational needs while still maintaining some degree of productivity and moving in that right direction. So, you know, here I've got kind of this ITIL chart and just a few bullet points of kind of key benefits and points of emphasis when considering change management for your organization. And just to talk on this, I mean, this is a bit divergent than some of the other slides, but this is a capture of Carnegie Mellon's quality attributes. And largely a quality attribute is a measurable or testable property of an IT solution that is used to indicate how well the system satisfies the needs of its stakeholders. I see in a lot of solutions, we get very pigeonholed and don't have, kind of put our blinders on, and we don't really take a broader look, and we end up creating more of these data silos and don't look to a longer term strategy. You know, we've got very aggressive timelines when building a solution, and we're not really designing for the enterprise. So the message here is really go breadth first, take a very wide view of what we're trying to build, and then focus on things like depth. And looking at some of these quality attributes are just an example of some of the things that maybe we should be focused on. But as far as I'm concerned, it's an iterative process. You go breadth first, then you go into depth. And then once you actually have some iterative progress, go back and take a step back and look at the breadth again before you deep dive again. As part of, you know, starting this digital transformation journey and creating this vision for you know, data and IT strategy, data governance, advanced analytics as part of your overall business process. There's some essential data strategy principles that I've outlined here. These are things that you could effectively adopt as some cultural things within your organization, almost commandments that you have. And the point is, at the very least, you're trying to move forward and advance the current state of your organization, but you absolutely don't want to make things worse. So ensuring that you are integrating, you know, having high integrity with your data and eliminating silos, that you're streamlining data collection, setting clear goals, making data more visible. These are things that you should really consider adopting within your organization. Maybe just a quick blurb on OSTHUS. So, you know, we can help you align your enterprise with your data with enterprise goals. So managing your data while addressing your business needs, help you to future-proof your organization by navigating industry trends and to help you maintain your competitive edge. Establish a data-centric culture by helping you define responsibilities, roles, and standards so that you can make those data-driven decisions. And accelerate results for faster time to market. Control your organization through a governance process and help you analyze all of your data. I really like this message to kind of leave you guys off with. So if you're wondering, how do you get started immediately in advancing your data and IT strategy? We set up an industry neutral survey on data management maturity in collaboration with PwC based on the EDM Council standard survey to understand the data management practices of life sciences companies worldwide. So if you were interested in participating in the survey, you'll get to know your industry ranking. You'll be able to learn ways to improve your data management strategy, and you'll have access to industry trends, focus areas, and best practices. It's a nice little additional add-on. You'll receive promotional consulting offer from OSTHUS in collaboration with PwC, including a complimentary data governance workshop that incorporates the survey results. Survey, the participation is free, it's private and anonymous, and you can choose to conduct the survey with a data governance expert from OSTHUS or conduct it on your own. So again, very low pressure. It's a very simple way to really get a sense of where you stand today. And I mean, this is kind of the path forward here. So please do reach out to me if you're interested. There is a bit of a time sensitivity on this. I think we're trying to get this wrapped up by the end of February. So, but it's about an hour of your time to conduct this survey. So just before we jump to Q&A, here's my contact information. I really do want to thank you all for taking time out of your day to listen to my talk. I am sure it was a ton of content. I kind of blew through that last half quite quickly. And I know it's coming up on lunchtime for a lot of us. So we've got room for maybe 2 questions, but please do shoot me an email. And I've got time to meet right after this. I'll buy you guys lunch if you guys want to talk further. So Daniela, I hand it off to you.
Thank you, Michael. And yeah, we do have a couple of questions, not much time, but let's see what we can cover. So one of the questions is, I'm apparently intrigued by your poll. So on your LinkedIn poll, most people chose navigating the tech landscape. Do you find this is what you come across most often?
On the LinkedIn poll, yes. So navigating the tech landscape was the highest. Would I say it's the most often? I would say it's definitely the most universal challenge I see, and probably the biggest difference we've seen from 20 years ago to now is it's gotten incredibly complex with the number of product offerings that are out there. Just even doing a build solution for a data lake, there's so many different ways to build that out. Different vendors have their own flavors on that. I would say largely yes. And we've got a separate slide just showing the overall complexity, which I'd be happy to share with you guys. Depending on what type of tooling you're looking for, there are hundreds, if not thousands, of different technologies to choose from. And that's why I really encourage early phase into a digital transformation journey. Start doing those requests for informations or requests for proposals really up front, so that you can at least see what's out there, or partner up with a vendor that knows the landscape quite well that can help you navigate.
As you just have mentioned data lakes, so there's a question from Chris who asks if earlier you stated that data lakes have lost its luster. What do you take on how to improve data lake adoption?
Yeah, and honestly, I'm a huge fan of data lakes myself. But you know, to a lot of the points that have been made earlier, they turn into swamps, or they're kind of sold as the end-all be-all solution, and it ends up not being the case. And I think the data lake concept in itself is fine. You know, looking at just loading your data into a central repository and having that, but you know, maybe we can look more so into the different interfaces, both how do we load data into the data lake and how do we get data out, doing things like query on read. You've got different business perspectives on how you want to access the data. So being able to apply schemas on demand, I think is very interesting, allows you to kind of have that agility, things of that nature. Also componentizing the lake so that you can, you know, plug in legacy systems, different data lakes, different vendor solutions, so that you can all play together in a very common ecosystem, I think is also essential. Hopefully I answered that question, but I think there's I could do a 3-hour conversation on that. And if you don't mind, I'll follow up maybe with an email on some of those topics as well.
Okay, that's good. Yeah, maybe one last question. What are your thoughts on adaptability versus sticking to your long-term strategy?
I think there should be a very clean and simple long-term strategy. So as Jan mentioned yesterday, something like doubling R&D productivity is maybe a big, hairy, audacious goal, but is very tangible. And to me, that should not change. But in terms of being adaptable, I think that should be of the highest importance. There's a way to do it in a controlled fashion using some form of change management process, but we're in a very dynamic environment these days, and I think it's absolutely essential that you have very iterative, whether it be quarterly, monthly, program reviews, quarterly business reviews, what have you, just to review your overall project and goals and portfolios, so that you can point yourself in the right direction, so that you're providing the most value to the organization, and not doing that on a yearly or after several years. Because we see these life cycles that they go for years. You build a product for 3 years and it's already pretty much become obsolete. So you need to have that adaptability. I would rank adaptability over long-term strategy more times than not, personally.
Clear answer. Thank you. So I think with this we conclude our first section for the